In the 17th century, the father of modern philosophy, Descartes, likened animals to biological machines, lacking the faculties to think or feel. His theory maintained that while humans experience thoughts and feelings that transcend their biology, animals have no subjective experience, and their behavior can be explained entirely by biology. Comparing non-human experience or behavior to that of humans was deemed the sin of anthropomorphism, and this view has persisted within scientific thinking ever since. But while Descartes claimed there was something fundamentally different about the minds, hearts, souls, and consciousness of human beings, the evidence for this fundamental thing has never been found. In the centuries of scientific research since Descartes proposed his theory, research has revealed the same neurobiology, physiology, and brain structures responsible for thought and emotion across the animal kingdom. No biological feature separating the human organism from the rest of the animal kingdom has been found, even though scientists have spent centuries looking for it. Early philosophers believed human uniqueness would be found in brain size. But the biological facts revealed that whales, not people, have the biggest brains of any animal on Earth. The human brain is 2 to 3-fold smaller than the elephant brain and 4 to 6-fold smaller than the brains of several cetaceans. Other early philosophers claimed that, of all the animals, man has the brain largest in proportion to his size. But this also turned out to be false. Researchers then looked for human exclusivity in the amount of neurons in the brain. But they found that elephants have 3 times more neurons than humans. Next, they looked for human uniqueness in the number of folds in the brain, known as gyrification. But humans don't rank first in gyrification either. Both dolphins and humpback whales have more cortical convolutions and surface area than human brains do. Orcas have the most gyrified brain on Earth. After more deliberation, scientists finally offered up the so-called encephalization quotient, brain size relative to the expected brain size in related taxa. On top, humans, few. The problem with the encephalization quotient paradigm, however, is that it turned out to be inconsistent when applied to other species. For example, species we consider less cognitively advanced may have higher EQs than those we consider to be more intelligent. Researchers are now abandoning this theory because it presupposes that all brains scale the same way. This assumption is invalid and therefore should no longer be applied. Researchers assumed the cerebral cortex would be the thing that made humans fundamentally different, because this is considered the most advanced region of the brain where humans do their higher conscious thinking. However, elephants have the largest cerebral cortex of any land mammal. The dolphin brain weighs around 1,600 grams and has a cortical surface area of about 3,700 square centimeters, while the human brain weighs around 1,300 grams and has a cortical surface area of about 2,400 square centimeters. Researchers postulated that human uniqueness could lie in the number of neurons in the cerebral cortex. With 16 billion neurons in the human cerebral cortex, it has been interpreted by some that the sheer magnitude of neurons in human brains forms the neural basis for the emergence of unique cognitive capacities. Complicating this argument is the observation that at least one species has been reported to have nearly threefold more cortical neurons than humans. The longfin pilot whale has 29 to 46 billion neurons in the cerebral cortex. Since Descartes' assumption in the 17th century, research has revealed that it appears increasingly likely that humans do not have truly unique cognitive abilities, and hence must differ from these animals not qualitatively, but rather in the combination and extent of abilities, such as theory of mind, imitation, and social cognition. The brains of humans and other mammals are so similar that a lot of what we've learned about the human brain has actually been from rodents and other animals. With such similarity, it calls into question the uniqueness of human consciousness and the anatomical structures that have evolved to support it. This similarity in brain structure exists because of the evolutionary history that all these brains share. Because we have a shared evolutionary history and similar brain structures, we share sensory perception and emotions. In many ways, human emotions are the gifts of our animal ancestors. There is no scientific evidence to support the theory that animals experience emotions differently. Mammals share the same nervous system, neurochemicals, perceptions, and emotions. Not just our closest relatives, but also our most distant. Humans and cats have identical neurochemicals and regions of the brain responsible for emotions. We now know that, like human experience, animal experience is not genetically determined, but based on personal, subjective experience and memory. Subjective experience refers to the emotional and cognitive impact of an experience, as opposed to an objective experience of events, and cannot be objectively or empirically measured. Subjective experience and its correlated brain structures are now known to exist in mammals and birds. Sensory consciousness, the ability to have subjective experience that can be explicitly accessed and thus reported, arises from brain processes that emerge through evolutionary history. Research suggests that the neural foundations that allow sensory consciousness arose either before the emergence of mammals or independently in birds. Subjective experience forms an individual's inner world, which is a personal collection of subjective experiences and memories tied to relationships, people, places, experiences, and associated emotions. We now know that, like us, animals have episodic memory, which is the conscious recollection of a personal experience that contains information on what has happened and also where and when it happened, in context with the emotions associated with those things. Although it was originally thought that this capacity was particular to humans, we now have ample evidence that core properties of episodic memory are present across mammals as well as in birds. So to understand how animals experience the world emotionally, we must deduce from the similarities that it is in a similar way to how we do, with senses, hearts, brains, and nervous systems that are essentially the same as ours.